I want to thank Al Heyman. I'm going to quit my job. I made 6 figures, baby. Ha! You know what? I told y'all Al Heyman wasn't going to lay down. Didn't I tell y'all? Telling you, Amazon Prime. Now we got what? Canelo Munguia is going down. Eddie Hearn thought he was slick. Al Heyman, a smart man. Hey, let's talk about it, fellas. Munguia, Canelo, coming up real soon.
And welcome to Deep Waters PBC, alongside Amazon Prime Video. Canelo Alvarez versus Munguia, Saturday, May 4th, live at the T-Mobile Arena. Should be a great fight. And the timing, well, you have to give them a little bit of maybe a little bit of grief, a little bit of credit with the timing, because it was immediately after Anthony Joshua knocked out Francis Ngannou to try and, I guess, steal some of the headlines. Welcome to Deep Waters. All right, Paulie, what do you make of this announcement of Munguia fighting Canelo May 4th PBC event on Amazon Prime pay-per-view?
The timing, grief about the timing. Forget the timing. The guy's fighting a Mexican. He's been telling us he's not going to fight a Mexican just so he can avoid Benavidez. The timing, forget about the timing, dude. The issue is that he's fighting a Mexican after he's been assuring guys he's never going to fight a Mexican. After he had already fought 2 Mexicans in the past, Chavez Jr. and Angulo, telling us he's not going to fight a Mexican now just to avoid Benavidez. When you're such a liar, you can't keep track of your own lies. See, a liar has to have a good memory. Canelo either doesn't have a good memory or he doesn't, or he can care less. He just, the disrespect at this point is out of this world. Having said that, Canelo's output as a fighter is not that high. Munguia likes a high output. However long it lasts, if it goes, I think it actually is a good fight. I just don't think it's the fight that's supposed to happen, considering Canelo has all the belts.
Yeah, you know what Tim was talking about too. Let's just get this into perspective, and I'll throw it to you, Chris. We heard for a long time the soap opera of Canelo that he was leaving PBC. Everyone wants to be the first to report Canelo left PBC. We didn't hear a word from PBC or Canelo. They said he was gone. Suddenly, like Tim said, he's back, and now he's fighting Munguia on May 4th, Chris. So, like Paulie said, Munguia is busy, and Canelo is not going to like that pressure. But you think a lot of people are going to undersell Canelo in this one?
Just real quick on the PBC Amazon Prime thing. Al wasn't going to let Canelo go. He's got this big Prime deal. He needs someone of that magnitude to be able to push these cards. So he's going to do whatever he could to get him back. So I'm not that surprised. But in terms of this actual fight, listen, Canelo should be fighting David Benavidez. He is the guy who's deserving to get the title shots. That's who he should be fighting. But he's not fighting him. I still like this fight. Munguia fight and Canelo at this stage, I mean, I think it's a fun fight. I like it. We talked about the output of Munguia. He's a guy who throws a ton of punches. He's never in a bad fight. His fights are very fun to watch. And Canelo is not very busy. Like the champ said, he's a counterpuncher, especially at this stage of his career. His punch output is going down and down. So it makes this fight somewhat interesting. You got the young, youthful exuberance of Munguia, who's hungry, and basically his entire career was made for this moment. And he's got his shot against Canelo, who is an aging Canelo, and we've seen in recent fights that he's not the same guy he used to be. So does this make this a better fight? I think so, and I think it's going to be fun, like you said, while the fight lasts. I think we're probably going to see a knockout in this fight, but while it lasts, I think it's going to be a lot of fun because Jaime Munguia is allergic to being in bad fights, so he's going to go out there and try and make it work, and the best way that he knows how, and that's just to be busy and go after Canelo full steam ahead.
Cinco de Mayo, it's going to be on. Mexican versus Mexican. Munguia, we know he a slugger. Got a good chin, has shown a good chin so far in his career, gets hit with big shots. If he can take Canelo's punch, he can be in this fight, man. Canelo Alvarez, I believe, is a smarter fighter going into this fight. A lot of experience. I think he has more skills in his tool bag. I think that Munguia is going to be right there. I like look. However, I do like the fact that you have Freddie Roach in the corner of Munguia now. I do like that. I do like that, man. And I know Freddie's he knows what he needs to do and what he needs to have his guy do. And that's to put pressure. That's to be there and to be available and be ready to avoid the big shots early and push the fight on the back end of the fight. Push it, because Canelo, he runs out of steam, man. He does. He'll hit you with some big shots early on. And if you don't get out of there, I mean, you can be in his grill late in the fight and you can put the pressure on. I think Munguia has that output and that volume that he can put on Canelo late and could still some of those last rounds. However, man, I'm gonna go with Canelo right out the gate, man. I think Canelo's too smart, a little bit too strong, too busy, too savvy. He should be able to beat Munguia. It's not the fight that everybody wants. However, this is the fight that I believe that everybody's gonna be excited to watch.
Hey, Paulie, Canelo hasn't had a knockout since Caleb Plant. But for a lot of people think that a guy like Munguia is tailor-made for Canelo. If Canelo is still Canelo, it seems like a tailor-made opponent for him. So I wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, if Canelo is still Canelo, which was, I guess if Canelo is the guy he was a few years ago. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. She's
I
still
was waiting for that line.
She's still not my uncle. Just like Canelo is not going to be the Canelo that he once was at one time. I don't know, man. You know, Tim, you made a really good point with Freddie Roach, man. That is a really wild card thing. That, lack of no pun intended. That's the wild card right there. The X Factor wild card is Freddie Roach there, because Freddie hasn't been in a big corner in a little while. You know what I mean? And he for a while he was the talk of the boxing trainer's kingdom, so to speak. But this is where Freddie actually becomes his best as well, is in these moments. He lived for these kind of moments. Where he can, the strategizing part of these kind of big fights, the real nitty gritty in terms of these kind of big fights. This is where Freddie actually, the best of Freddie Roach actually lives. You know, it's for these kind of moments. And it's interesting because there are a lot of flaws in Canelo at this point in time, you know, and yes, Canelo hasn't had a knockout. Yes, Munguia is very hittable, but at the same time, Munguia also has qualities that could trouble this version of Canelo. Listen, I think any version of Canelo never liked activity. All right, it was just he was able to get the respect of his opponents and bring their activity down to his level of activity when he was at his best, right? With the exception of the guys who gave him trouble, obviously. But I don't know at this point, can he get the respect factor of a guy like Munguia, who, yes, he gets hit, he's got a good chin, but he has that youth excitement, and that youth excitement sometimes will kind of go through some shots to keep that energy up. And then you mix in the combination that is Freddie Roach's strategizing. I think, you know, again, this is not the fight I wanted, bro. For the sake of that, the right thing should be done, and Benavidez getting a title shot is the right thing being done. But for this kind of fight, I mean, I could see it getting interesting here because Munguia's coming off a very hot performance over Ryder, getting the stoppage. Canelo is there's a lot of question marks about him. I mean, we don't know where his mind is at in general. He's made a lot of money. He's doing good in life. He's got one foot out the door. He doesn't want to fight the best. So he's clearly picking Munguia because maybe he sees flaws in him. He's obviously not looking to fight the best, because if he was looking to fight the best, he'd have fought Benavidez. So if you're picking this guy thinking maybe it's going to be easier, maybe you're thinking he's going to be too easy. Maybe you're underestimating Munguia, you know? And again, you find yourself in a whirlwind tornado of a fight at a pace you don't like. What happens, you know? Cinco de Mayo, all the Mexicans out there, you know, the ingredients are getting put into this sauce, you know, for an interesting night.
Chris, what do you think about the fight?
You know, I want to bring up the Freddie Roach thing you guys brought up. Freddie's a great offensive coach, and I think that's a great addition for Munguia. Munguia is an offensive guy anyway. We're not going to turn Munguia into Arizona De Lara. He's not going to start boxing. He's not going to have head movement. He's an offensive guy, and I think against Canelo specifically, we're talking about pace and pressure. I think that stuff is going to be important. This fight's going to be very curious early on. When Canelo lands that first big shot, does Munguia respect it or walk through it? If he walks through it, Canelo's going to have a long night because that kid's going to keep coming. He's, like I mentioned, his whole career was prepped for this moment. This is his coming out party, essentially. Is it going to be enough? I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, if he can't get Munguia's respect early, Canelo's going to have trouble with the volume and the pressure of Munguia.
Look, Freddie, we talking about that Freddie's an offensive coach, and you're right. He's absolutely an offensive coach, but he explains the when and how you should use that offense. See, that's the difference. Like, you can be an offensive coach and not have any caution in as far as defense goes. You know, he does. He tells you when you should be throwing shots and when you shouldn't be throwing shots. And he shows you how, the know-how. You know, I saw some changes, subtle changes in Munguia's game in his last time.
In the Ryder fight, yes.
Ryder. Yes, subtle changes. I didn't like the fact
He never
that
had a
kept-
right hand, and then all of a sudden he's got a million right hands. It was,
But I didn't like the fact that he kept getting hit with that right hook.
Yeah.
That just lets me know that Munguia just don't give a damn. If it's not affecting him, or dazing him, he just don't care. I mean, that's just being youthful and being young. You know what I mean? He could take a big shot. However, I think that Freddie is going to be the X factor here. It's going to be an exciting fight, no matter what happens through this fight. And then I just want to talk about the Benavidez thing here, man. You know, these sanctioning bodies, they need to get their shit together, man. You know, excuse my French people, but they need to get it together, because you can't have favorites and all this. And I know it goes on, man. It does go on. However, like we gotta call these guys out, man, because these sanctioning bodies are allowing Canelo to hold these belts hostage without having these mandatory challenges. And that's wrong. That's wrong. So sanctioning bodies, if you seeing this right now, you know, I'm going to get their number and I'm going to give y'all a call, because I'm telling you, if Benavidez, listen to me, if Benavidez was to sue the sanctioning body, WBC or whoever, to sue him, you know, for not allowing him to get his spot, you know, to fight for the world championship, they wouldn't like that at all. So, you know, I'm throwing it out there right now. Benavidez might be something that you need to do. You probably need to sue the sanctioning body for the not allowing you and honoring their word and stripping him, you know, of that belt, because you supposed to be getting this shot. You deserve this shot.
I tell you what, he should at least get us the step aside fee from Canelo at this point. Canelo makes should be charged a step aside fee, and WBC should enforce that. But really, I mean, we're in a situation where nothing changes. I mean, we're 2004, 2014, 2024. We'll be having this conversation in 2034. Well, you just said, Tim, you could take that little snippet of video and you could play it in any decade. It's going to be the same thing. You know what I mean? The sanctioning body's not doing their job. The sanctioning body's not enforcing this thing. We can take that video right there and we can play it in 10 years, and it will apply somewhere down the line, because that's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
Think about it. They just stripped Crawford. They stripped Crawford.
Yeah.
Crawford didn't have a belt.
Well, again,
Didn't he get stripped?
it's
Strip
all
him quick.
politics. Depending on the thing. Here's the thing, but I don't want to lose my train of thought. Here's the thing. Canelo, it's not that he doesn't do mandatories. He doesn't do mandatories that'll actually beat him. That's the problem. Because he did Yavne Yildirim. You know what I mean? When the mandatory somehow becomes the guy who makes you bagel down the street, Canelo fights him. You know what I mean? And then he'll say, hey, it's the mandatory. We had to take it. And his fans will actually jump on you too. Because I've had discussions with the Canelo fans be like, nah, Yavne Yildirim, that was a mandatory. He had to do it. Okay. So was Jamal Charlo when Jamal was hot. I'm going to talk about this Jamal Charlo. When Jamal was hot at middleweight, he was a mandatory as well. And that fight was nowhere to be seen. You know, now Benavidez is hot right now at super middleweight. That is a mandatory. Now, fight's nowhere to be seen. Nobody's ever going to step it up and step in there and do it. I don't have a problem with Canelo doing what he wants. I have a problem with Canelo doing what he wants with the belts. And people are going to say, oh, Paulie's Canelo's biggest hater. Listen, people say, oh, Paulie always picks against Canelo. No, I don't pick against Canelo. It's too easy to pick for Canelo. When he fights the guy who makes my bagels for breakfast, there's no way I'm going to pick the guy making the bagels. He's obviously that guy. That I pick against Canelo, when Canelo fights guys you already know he's going to beat. The closest I came was I said B-Roll is going to get robbed against Canelo. And I was pleasantly surprised that they didn't rob the guy, because I thought that guy was going to beat him. But I picked Canelo to beat Plant. Anybody's going to pick Canelo to beat 175-year-old Golovkin when he fought the third time. You know what I mean? That was an easy one to pick. You know, I picked Canelo to beat Saunders. And, you know, I picked Canelo to beat Ryder. Anybody's going to pick him to beat Ryder. I mean, is that a difficult pick, really? And you know what? This was a little bit tougher, because again, it's a Canelo who doesn't like pace, and it's a Munguia who brings pace, but he's hittable. So you have a dynamic where there's an argument going both ways.
Chris, since we're talking Benavidez, you know, a lot of people like to talk about his legacy, which I think his legacy is secure. But Andre Ward is the latest one to sound out on it. He feels that Canelo damages his legacy by not fighting Benavidez. So, Chris, I know we've talked about it before, but you know, it's an ongoing thing that he's not fighting the man that should get the shot.
I agree with Andre Ward. And I actually said that on our shows a couple months ago. I think it does hurt Canelo by not taking on David Benavidez, who is the most deserving guy around. And I've said it before about Mexican fighters. All the great Mexican fighters fought the next guy coming up. And most of the time you lose. They lose. It doesn't hurt their legacy to lose to the next king of the sport. And that's what I think David Benavidez is going to be. Chavez did it with De La Hoya. He fought him twice. I mean, he was a young, streaking guy. He handed the crown basically over to De La Hoya. And no one ever talks about the De La Hoya fight for Chavez as it hurts his career. It's not going to tarnish a career to go out like a warrior. And if Canelo is to fight David Benavidez, even if he was to lose, I don't think it hurts his standing. But if he never fights him, I think it does.
Yeah, see what happens there. It's going to be interesting that May 4th. By the way, March 13th, this week, Wednesday Night Fights, it's going to be live here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel, on our YouTube as well. And by the way, I don't know, you guys don't know this sometimes, but the comments during the fights sometimes are as entertaining as what happens in the ring. So definitely want to get your comments on YouTube. All right, let's continue with this Munguia and Canelo Alvarez situation, because George, a lot of people are counting out Munguia as for this fight, but what do you think, or let's ask the champs, what do they think that Munguia has to do to upset Canelo?
Yeah, well, Paulie, why don't you start?
Well, I think I went into it a little bit already. You know, I think the dynamic of this fight is interesting because, again, you have a very active Munguia. You have a guy. And let me tell you something else about the Freddie Roach factor in here. Freddie Roach with Manny Pacquiao, the style was in and out. Pacquiao's an in-and-out fighter. He kind of glides in and out. He flies in with combinations. If you look at Munguia when he's throwing his combinations, he kind of glides in the same, not the same exact way, but he has that in-and-out style where he's kind of up high and he's bouncing, and then he kind of bounces in and throws like the 4, 5, 6 punch salvos. So it's something that it's a method that Freddie Roach works well with, that in-and-out style with punching combinations and salvos. And it's a method that Munguia uses. Again, like Tim said earlier, it's a matter of the timing when you come in and out at the right way, so you can take away you can break the rhythm or take away the counterpunching ability of Canelo, because Canelo's not active, and when Canelo's at his best, it's because he's forcing you to be as active as him, which is bringing down your activity. And how does he do that? He does that by forcing you to respect his power, by counterpunching you with shots you don't see coming when you try to attack. Then suddenly you're hesitant, and now the pace has been slowed down, and he pressures you the way he started doing to Caleb Plant. If you look at it, he kind of mentally pressured him little by little by little. I don't know that you can mentally really pressure Munguia, because Munguia likes to fight, right? But I think that you got to catch Munguia coming on those in and outs. You got to catch him coming, because once he starts getting off those salvos and he gets confident doing them, and he sees the crowd going crazy, because those are also adrenaline rush combos. The crowd goes crazy every time you throw them. I've been to Munguia. I was at Munguia Rosado. Every time he's throwing one of those shots, I mean, those are combination type punches, combination type salvos that the crowd goes crazy for. You know, so you got to break that momentum, and you got to break that confidence by catching him coming. If you're not able to do it, though, you're going to lose control of the pace, and Munguia is going to gain more confidence. So that's the dynamic of this fight. Which way can that be done? It's something that Canelo does well, but can he do it against this guy at this point in his career? Or does Munguia do that, which he's known to do already, and time it well through the intelligence of Freddie Roach and the savvy of Freddie Roach, and he starts to put hands on Canelo more and more in the fight? That's the dynamic you're looking for here, which way it goes.
Look, I just think Canelo's just too smart. You know, at the end of the day, it's about skill. It's about being cerebral inside that ring. I just don't see Munguia. I don't think he has that ability, man. You mentioned, Paulie, that, you know, he gets overexcited, you know, with the crowd, and he throws combinations. And I think that's going to be his downfall. I really do. I think that Canelo, you know, uses the high guard trap. He uses a lot of pulls. He's going to be able to set up, you know, killer shots over the top, down to the body as well, because, you know, Munguia is tall, long, you know, somewhat rangy at the same time, but his body is a big body that Canelo can beat on. So if Munguia is going to be in this fight, he's going to have to be a little bit smarter. He's going to have to be more selective with his shots. He's going to have to get off with his jab. It's got to be done with footwork. You know, I understand the in and out movement, that will help him. Yes, it would. But he's going to have to be a lot sharper with his offense. He's got to be a little bit more, I would say, a little bit more efficient with his offense as well. Not just throwing caution to the wind, because any mistake that he makes, Canelo's going to be looking to make him pay. You know, and he can't afford to take them big shots, because Canelo, once he starts getting comfortable and he starts feeling himself a bit, he'll throw more and more and more and more shots. And if anything gets in there and hurts Munguia, it's going to be all she wrote, because Canelo will definitely finish him.
Yeah, Munguia is one of those guys, and he throws so much that he leaves a lot of holes. And the best version of Canelo counterpunches him and stops him, and does it fairly easily, I think. But we're looking at that most important stat that we saw on that tail of the tape was the age, 33 to 27. 33 is when things start going downhill for most guys. But also he's had a long career as well. And Munguia, 27, man, approaching his prime and his physical prime. It's going to be interesting, like I said, early on, how the power is going to affect Munguia early on. Because there's going to be holes. There's going to be spots. Think back to Jaime Munguia fights. How many times you've seen him trade left hooks and get cracked? He does that with Canelo. He's probably going to get hurt and hurt early on. And so that's what I would see, the best version of Canelo. But again, we don't know what kind of Canelo is going to show up. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think they're not going to have trouble finding each other. But I agree with you, Tim. I think that Canelo is a little too sharp, a little too explosive, picks his spots just right, and there's enough holes in the offense of Munguia for Canelo to find those shots when he needs to.
Also, another dynamic, the Golden Boy dynamic, the Oscar De La Hoya dynamic. You know, Golden Boy. You know, you could get interesting at press conferences. Could get interesting building up the fight. Also, it's a really important couple of weeks for Golden Boy Promotions in general, because they got Ryan Garcia fighting Devin Haney a couple of weeks before, and then Munguia fighting Canelo. You imagine if they pull off 2 upsets, the standing of Golden Boy Promotions, where that goes. If both of those guys pull off 2 upsets, granted they're big ifs, but what I'm saying is, in general, it's going to be an interesting sub factor in terms of the discussions and the rumor mill going into the fight as well.
Well, Tim, let's say that the upset doesn't happen and Canelo wins. I believe this is a 1-fight deal with PBC. Don't want to quote me because we don't know, but I think it's a 1-fight deal. Let's say Canelo wins and looks good. Won't the pressure at some point be unbearable for Canelo to fight Benavidez? Or at this point, is he just saying, I do what I want because no one strips me of the belts and I run the sport?
The only ones that can put pressure on Canelo is the sanctioning bodies. That's the only one. Because Canelo's going to do what Canelo wants to do. If he doesn't want to fight Benavidez, he's not going to fight him. You know, personally, I think he's done a lot in the sport already. That's just my opinion. You can bash me all you want. I think Canelo is the man. You know, he's the cash cow for a reason. I think that Canelo actually fought, you know, top guys early on in his career. He did. He fought Floyd Mayweather when he was 23 years old. You know, he challenged Floyd Mayweather at that age. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's taken out of context though, Tim, because anybody wants that fight at that moment. It's your big money fight.
I understand it is his big money fight, but he didn't have to take that fight. He didn't have to take Mayweather.
Anybody will want that fight. Nobody's tearing that. Nobody.
But he earned, what I'm trying to say is he earned the right to fight Mayweather. You know what I mean? It just wasn't a money thing. I thought that if he beat Lara,
what was
but I'm just saying, I thought he beat Lara. I did. I thought he beat Lara. Many would argue and say, no, he didn't beat Lara. He got the decision. You know, I can tell you many fighters that even in the past, you know, a lot of people thought that Ken Norton beat Ali 3 times, you know. A lot of people didn't think I beat Manny Pacquiao. So, like, you have those fights where they're just that damn close and it goes to one side and don't go to the other, where you're saying, whoa, that's iffy. I don't know. Well, he has some good fighters, and he beat Triple G when Triple G was Triple G. You know, when many guys didn't want to face him.
He got the decision.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say he got.
But I'm just saying, hey, look. No disrespect, Paulie. I'm just saying he got the decision.
Can't never disrespect. So what do you have?
But I'm just saying he got the wins, you know, and now he's in position to do what he wants to do after 17 world championships. Yes, we all want to see him fight against Benavidez. We do. You know, but to your point, Paulie, your point is exactly spot on. Give up the belts. You know, stop holding the belts hostage, because there's other guys out there that's deserving of holding one of those straps, and they're willing to face the best guys, including him, and that's Benavidez, that I believe that earned his right to face Canelo. I do. You know, now the sanctioning bodies got to step up and do their jobs so that fight could happen or not happen. So that way, you know, Canelo can sell off and do what he wants to do without having to face Benavidez, and Benavidez can win one of those belts and defend it like the champion I believe he is.
What, he's adding more pressure on himself, because if he takes this fight to avoid Benavidez and then loses this fight, the egg on his face is going to be massive.
He's not going to lose this fight. He ain't losing this fight, Paulie. Tailor-made.
Yeah, great stuff from George Jakovic, Paulie Malignaggi, Tim Bradley, and Chris Algieri. And don't forget, after that fight, immediately after the decision, we will have a big fight recap live on our YouTube channel here on ProBox TV. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be PBC pay-per-view May 4th on Amazon Prime Video. That partnership is growing with Canelo and Munguia. It's going to be a great one. Don't forget Deep Waters. Like and subscribe here on our YouTube channel. This is Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel.